From here, we go into a bit of the examples from our own work.
Yep.
From Toy Story 3, for instance.
Yeah, one of the things we played with on Toy Story 3 was to sort of organize colors. Overall, this is something that we always have to be careful. It's not like everything blue is one thing, but just overall, when blue seems sort of significant in the shot or just takes over the frame, actually it's representing something. And we kind of came up with this kind of 4 overall color structure in the film. Blue being represented by Andy's wall color, and that's why Andy's wearing blue every day. His room is, cluttered with different kinds of stuff, but overall blue. His car is blue, and whenever that represents home, so whenever guys are trying to go home, there's blue. And of course, the film's climax is leading up towards this fire pit, so it's like extreme red. It can be more redder than this. And we definitely kind of anchored that against this blue. So red and blue are just kind of like the extreme safety versus danger symbolisms. And then we introduced green, Bonnie, new character, new hope for the guys. And her environment, even working with Robert's team, designing an environment, we asked for like more foliage and more, green bed sheets and green wallpapers, and her clothing is green, and just kind of represents kind of like a nature, organic. That's why the last scene is this dapple lights. In fact, a lot of the Bonnie scenes in this film mostly are dappled lights. That's also a lighting symbolism that we stuck with. And finally, we had this yellow color to show somewhat this uneasy in between. It's not extreme danger quite yet, but it's this kind of an uneasy feeling leading up towards danger. And the color is driven by the color of Daisy, Lotso's previous owner. So we, the Lotso's backstory of the memory of Daisy is all yellow. So the yellow is driving that whole storytelling.
And let's look at kind of one specific sequence where color symbolism, color overall, lives within those bigger ideas. We'll take a look at the dump sequence. And, this is a chart that we built. Kind of you and your team were kind of responsible for the lighting, but we kind of worked on a few paintings together and put together this with some references and stuff like that, this idea of the progression through the dump.
Yeah, one of those things that, especially for something like a climax, when you're trying to build up towards this climax, you don't want to go all over the place. There is an opportunity to build up, and you want to simplify it so that you are with the feeling that the filmmaker is trying to, you want the audience to build towards that extreme. And we talked about, using red for the extreme climax, when they're about to die. We really just use that color analogy, color symbolism very, very simply, and carry the whole climax.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll look at a piece of this, but maybe you want to walk through the sequence.
Yeah, like we use that sort of uneasy yellow in the beginning, even though, this is quite, like, night photography tends to have a certain tint we can play with, and we kind of played with that night photography feel, that it's picking up this kind of a warm temperature, but instead of orangish color, which is normally the case, that we pushed it towards this kind of olive color that we've been using for this uneasy part of the film. Yeah, just building up with this color, just really somewhere you don't want to be. Obviously, use of just extreme lighting as well, with this kind of lights just passing by, just the light patterns passing by them too. And you really don't, you're very disoriented.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's like a thrill ride almost, where you're in extreme danger. Oh my gosh, this yellow light makes you really uneasy. And then, this kind of scene where you're passing in and out of the yellow light. And here where you think, are we safe? Because you kind of have the foreground's kind of in this, not quite this yellow, but there's yellow kind of up ahead.
And then you realize
the danger.
Yeah,
is
another
this
danger.
shredder.
And that's the thing that you always want to play, right? Even though you have this built up, within that built up, you want to do a bit of a contrast of ups and downs, so that it's not like constant, and you could get actually bored, So the story was calling for, okay, we're safe. Oh my God, we're in danger. Well, okay, we're safe. Oh my God, we're even in a better, worse danger,
Yeah.
That's the kind of idea that Lee was trying to build in the story, and we try to do the same thing with the color.
Absolutely. And eventually they kind of get up and over that yellow.
Yeah.
And get to a bit of another calm area.
Of course, helping Lotso.
And I love how Lotso's even color here is kind of not his pink, but how it looks under that yellow light. And then, of course, they get to safety.
Yeah.
They overcome the shredder, and they're back into that kind of neutral light, cool light. But of course, it doesn't stay like that very long.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, the Rex actually says, hey, look, it's outside, it is light. They thought it was actually the morning sun or something, the warm light. Now we're safe. We're actually going to go towards that. But of course, in the movie, we established that reddish color as danger. So although they thought it was safety, that hopefully audience feels there's something coming.
Yep. And of course, the closer you get to the red light, they're in extreme danger.
Yeah.
This is no longer just the yellow light. This is this is serious.
It presents death.
Yeah. Death. That's so dark. This is just a cartoon.
And there's something interesting with this we played with, where Lotso gets up on the catwalk, and then there's a button, emergency button that he could actually push to save everyone. And everybody says, push it, Lotso, push it. And there's a moment for Lotso to whether push it or not. It was really fun to kind of play with this emergency light blinking. Although usually emergency light is not blue, but we specifically use blue just so that there's a bit of a good in him, and there's definitely an overwhelming evil, which is red, fighting inside him. And of course, evil takes over and wins it, and then he doesn't push the button. But then we wanted to kind of play this small moment of him battling internally, and the lighting was the only thing that was actually telling that.
Yeah, I love this scene because he has to make a choice, and the light is the symbol for that. Yeah, and so that's kind of a bit of.
Yeah, we covered quite a bit, but like Robert said earlier, that color is very subjective, and color is very broad. It's really hard to be very specific, and in the end, it's about how you want audience to feel and how you think you can utilize color to influence that.
You absolutely have to create the meaning and the context for what color actually means within it. It's you could say like red is love. That's a lot of people would agree with that. But red is also anger. Yeah. And a lot of people can agree with that. And I think it's the context for which you create these symbols in. What colors you use to identify something with is about consistency and context.
Yeah, totally.
And creating tone and mood is really a combination between how you light something in color.
Yep.
And staging and all of these elements working together. But color plays a huge, huge part of it. So that's kind of color.
Yep. Let's take a look at the demo.
Yeah, let's do that.